Have you ever watched your own driveway get hijacked by a neighbor who preaches community harmony while treating your property like her private charging pad? What if the smiling woman writing every ridiculous HOA fine was the same one giggling as her luxury EV blocked your only way home? And what if the quiet guy next door, the one everyone whispered was the problem, had been silently filming, documenting, and waiting for the exact second to turn her entire empire upside down? It all kicked off 6 months after I moved into Cedar Haven Estates, a picture-perfect slice of American suburbia where the lawns are always emerald and the rules are always invisible until they're not. I'd bought a fixer-upper with the widest driveway on the block, double deep, perfect for my weekend hobby restoring vintage motorcycles, tools in neat rows, bikes under tarps, the kind of setup that screamed, guy who likes fixing things, not illegal chop shop. But to Karen Whitaker, self-appointed HOA president, wine club dictator, and owner of the shiniest white Tesla Model Y in 3 zip codes, my driveway was a crime scene against suburban perfection. Her Tesla sat parked dead center on her side of the property line except when it didn't. First week I was unpacking. She accidentally rolled 2 feet onto my concrete. I let it slide. Second week, she angled it so the rear bumper kissed my garage door like it was flirting. I chalked it up to bad parking. By week 3, she left a pastel pink note under my windshield wiper. Too many oily motorcycles ruin curb appeal. Consider the neighborhood. That was the moment I knew I wasn't dealing with a bad driver. I was dealing with Karen. I stayed calm, smiled through gritted teeth, and started documenting everything. Time-stamped photos, video clips, license plate angles. I didn't complain yet. She did. Over the next month, she filed complaint after complaint with the board she basically owned. Oil stains on common property, unpermitted commercial activity, porch lights too aggressive. The HOA board, her book club besties in matching polo shirts, rubber-stamped every fine straight to my mailbox while my complaints vanished into the same black hole that swallows missing socks. Things hit peak absurdity one sticky Thursday evening. I pulled up after a long day to find her Tesla straddling my driveway like a white plastic throne. Couldn't pull in, couldn't back out. Karen herself was across the lawn in yoga pants and a sun hat, watering the same 3 hydrangeas she'd been babying for 45 minutes while humming Taylor Swift like nothing was wrong. I asked, politely, if she could move it. She gave me the sing-song, oopsie, and promised she'd pop right over after finishing her routine. 45 minutes later, I parked on the street. That night, I emailed the HOA board photos. Timestamps. The works. 2 days later, the reply came. $150 fine for unauthorized vehicle proximity. Karen had filed a counter-complaint claiming my lawn mower was intimidating machinery. I laughed once, then stopped laughing when I woke up the next morning to a crushed mailbox and her Tesla once again smugly half on my side. Security footage? Wiped clean. Her brother-in-law just happened to be the neighborhood IT guy. Classic. That's when the quiet guy stopped being quiet and started planning. I filed a police report about the mailbox. Nothing. Karen began her charm offensive. Casual comments to neighbors about certain people turning our lovely street into a junkyard. She even ran a Facebook poll. Should we ban driveway hobbies that hurt property values? The photo she used? My tools neatly arranged beside a half-restored Harley. The comments poured in. Support for the ban, 68%. Karen celebrated with a backyard HOA mixer, champagne flutes, string lights, a PowerPoint titled Restoring Suburban Elegance. And guess what served as the glittering centerpiece? Her Tesla. Spotlit like a museum piece parked squarely across both driveways again. I watched from my porch, lemonade in hand. Smirk growing. She sauntered over, manicured nails tapping the Tesla hood. You wouldn't dare touch my baby, she giggled. The sound of someone who'd never been told no in her life. I didn't answer. I just tapped my phone screen and walked inside. What she didn't know was that for the past week, I'd quietly rented a forklift from a buddy in construction, delivered to my back lot under the innocent label equipment testing. I'd built a gentle ramp along the shared fence line. By midnight, the party was dead. Guests gone. Champagne flat. Her Tesla sat gleaming under moonlight like a smug white whale begging for a swim. I rolled the forklift around front with surgical silence. Boards under the tires so I wouldn't scratch her precious pavers. The fork slid under smooth as silk. The Tesla lifted, hovering, weightless, utterly unaware. I backed it down my driveway, around the corner, and headed 2 blocks to the community retention pond. City code called it non-motorized transport when you're technically towing. There was a flat concrete boat ramp. No cameras. No gates. I gently lowered the Tesla onto submerged skids I'd prepped earlier. By sunrise, it would be 15 feet offshore, resting on a soft mud shelf, visible, embarrassing, and expensive to retrieve. The next morning, I sat on my porch with the best coffee I'd ever tasted. Karen's shriek ripped through Cedar Haven like a fire alarm having an existential crisis. She pounded on my door. I didn't open it. She called the cops. I smiled as the officers arrived, handed over my neatly organized folder of footage showing her Tesla repeatedly blocking my driveway for weeks. They took statements. When she screamed, "He stole my property," the lead officer just shrugged. "Ma'am, technically he relocated it." Her face turned the exact color of spoiled oat milk. By noon, the whole neighborhood had gathered at the pond like it was free entertainment. Karen paced the shoreline in pink Crocs and a satin robe, yelling into her phone about hate crime against sustainable vehicles. The tow company showed up with a rig that looked built for tanks. They assembled winches and inflatable rafts while Karen argued with insurance over speakerphone. Water damage? Not covered. Retrieval fee? 5 figures. The crowd filmed. Teenagers laughed behind their hands. I sipped iced coffee from the opposite bank. Sunglasses on. Zero need to gloat. The scene was doing it for me. Karen wasn't done. Of course. That evening she showed up with a code inspector in my driveway. "Unpermitted mechanical activity," she chirped. "All sugar and venom." The inspector sighed, looked at my titles, my hobby logs, my DMV receipts. "Looks personal to me." Karen stormed off muttering, "This isn't over." The next week was pure petty warfare. Trash cans tipped. Mail misdirected. Fines for inadequate lighting, even though my bulbs met code. Then came Saturday at 6:43 a.m., a bullhorn. Karen had rallied half the board in matching polos for a curb appeal blitz. They measured my garage door paint, 3 shades too dark. Apparently, she'd snuck that rule through last quarter. I stood on my porch with coffee and said, "There's no actual rule about shade differentials." She waved her laminated bylaws like the 10 Commandments. I'd had enough. Monday, I filed for a special HOA meeting to review leadership structure. I didn't campaign with speeches. I hosted backyard cookouts, fixed the Johnson's gutter in the rain, mowed old Mr. Carmichael's lawn when he twisted his ankle. People talked. People remembered the neighborhood belonged to them too. Karen countered with wine nights and glossy flyers calling me the flea market candidate. Voting day, anonymous ballots. Result? Karen 14 votes. Me 32. When I called the first meeting to order in my usual flannel, I looked straight at her in the back row and said, "Let's talk about those driveway rules." Her face was worth every single day of the long game. First order of business. I killed the Community Integrity Enhancement Fund, Karen's fancy name for the slush pile of fines she used to throw wine mixers and pay her personal gardener. Refunded every cent. Unanimous vote. Karen stared like I'd murdered her golden retriever. Next, I mandated quarterly open meetings, no more secret wine-soaked bylaw changes. Transparency became law. She scoffed. I noted it in the minutes. She tried rumors. I was paving the park for a strip mall. Under tax fraud investigation. Had threatened her with a forklift, technically true but physically hilarious. I stayed quiet. Every shout she made. I got calmer. Then came the zoning officer pacing my yard again. Anonymous tip about an illegal structure. My shed, built in the 90s, came with the house. I showed the surveys. He left annoyed. That same night, a neighbor DM'd me a screenshot. Karen had posted an edited photo of my garage circled in red with the caption, "Possible meth lab?" Comments roasted her instead. "Karen, are you okay? Maybe lay off the Chardonnay." She deleted it fast. But the unraveling had started. I proposed dissolving her made-up titles: aesthetic compliance chair, civic culture director, the loopholes she'd written to find anyone whose porch lights offended her. Room packed. I kept it professional. These weren't for fairness. They were for one person's taste. Karen stood, flustered. This is an attack on our values. Someone in back muttered, "Time's up." Vote passed 38-9. Her titles vanished in 60 seconds. She was now just another resident. She wasn't finished. A thick legal packet arrived: emotional distress, harassment, defamation, Tesla incident front and center. My lawyer laughed. Tantrum in legalese. We countered with every documented abuse. Falsified footage. Selective fines. Her firm dropped her 2 days later. Next came white vans and a massive automatic gate at the base of her driveway. 8-foot steel fence. Cameras. Private property, do not approach sign. Overkill for a cul-de-sac where the biggest threat was raccoons. Problem? The whole thing sat 2 feet into HOA managed green space. Her own bylaws. I requested the official survey. Black and white. Her gate. Fence. Fresh driveway, apron, all encroached on communal easement. I brought facts to the board. No emotion. Just rules. Removal order issued. 14 days or escalating daily fines. She responded with a handwritten note. All this because of a car. I don't quit. Next morning at 6:12 a.m. The neighborhood woke to shattering metal and a mechanical whine. Her glorious titanium gate hung crooked. One arm snapped off in a bush. Keypad dangling by wires. Sparks flying. It had short-circuited trying to lock out the very land it illegally sat on. Neighbors gathered, barely hiding grins. Karen waved her arms at the bewildered technician. When she spotted me with coffee, she shrieked, "This is your fault." I sipped. "Your gate committed suicide." I just read the rules. She posted on the HOA page refusing to comply. Replies flooded with the easement map and memes. 4 days later, a private compliance consultant showed up, another of her hires. But while she spent thousands, I'd quietly motioned to auction the tiny parcel C7, the 2 feet under her gate. Bid one for $237. I now legally owned the land her entire fortress rested on. Posted the deed online with the caption, "All trespassing inquiries to my attorney." Her scream that night rattled windows. By morning, the gate was gone. Fence cut back. Driveway edge jackhammered and replaced with gravel. She didn't speak for a week. Then came the final act. She applied for a grand arched brick entrance, Villa de Serenity, with faux marble columns and wrought iron gate. Construction finished almost complete, except the entire left column sat 21 inches onto the land I now owned. I could have filed quietly. Instead, I called a licensed demolition crew for Saturday 9 a.m. Posted polite notices: light noise expected during community property restoration. At 8:59, Karen watered lavender in a sun hat the size of an umbrella, humming off-key. The bobcat rolled up. She turned. "What's this?" I took a sip of coffee. "You built that on my land." She dropped the watering can. The bucket arm cracked the base. Mortar popped. Bricks slid. The column tilted. She screamed for police. Officer Thompson arrived. Saw the paperwork. Gave me a thumbs up and leaned on his cruiser with coffee while the second column came down. Dust rose. The Villa de Serenity sign hung drunkenly before crashing into a bush. When the crew finished sweeping and power washing, Karen stood on her now gateless driveway, breathing like a dragon. "You don't belong here," she hissed. I looked her dead in the eye. "Karen, I own here. I vote here. I lead here. You don't get to exile people who won't match your magazine layout." She stormed inside and slammed the door. Over the next weeks, she tried one last rebellion: flyers, online rants, a petition with 4 signatures, one from her cat's vet. At the next meeting I opened with, "Anyone want to impeach me?" Dead silence. She didn't even show. Then one quiet Saturday she walked over. No pearls. No clipboard, just a small white envelope. Inside, one line. "I was wrong. You were right. I don't want to fight anymore." No signature. But it felt heavier than every fine combined. I called after her. "Karen, I don't either." She gave the smallest nod and kept walking. That was 6 months ago. The complaints stopped. The sabotage vanished. We even nodded at each other at the 4th of July block party. The neighborhood changed. Real projects. No more gnome fines. Actual community. I stopped being the new guy. I became the guy who fixed things and refused to lose. So here's the lazy truth. HOA Karens only win when good people stay silent. Document everything. Smile while you do it. And when the moment comes, sink the Tesla. Seize the throne. Own the 2 feet of land that breaks their empire. Their power is as fragile as a luxury EV in a retention pond. Don't let them drown your peace.